What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the House of Holocrons podcast on the Ducks and Download YouTube channel. In this podcast, we are going to be covering some fun Sith talk in the later half, just kind of mentioning what we're hoping for maybe the Sith or the future of Star Wars, and our favorite parts about some of the past of them, of course. And we will also be covering so many of these amazing San Diego Comic-Con leaks, pictures, exclusives, things that we're just really starting to see. They are just pouring out, of course, as San Diego Comic-Con got its start off today. This Thursday that we are recording this was the very first day of San Diego Comic-Con, and we can only expect more awesome things to happen as the week goes on. So, first off, of course, we do have some of the newer announcements for the Black Series. Vintage Collection is getting a few things. A lot of people are a little upset in the Vintage Collection right now because they haven't had as much of announcements. But hey, guys, you just got a HasLab. Calm down. You've had every HasLab for like the last 4 HasLabs in Star Wars, and I know a lot of people are like, "Well, Black Series would back it." Look, the last thing we got was a Rancor whose only stretch goals was more bones.
Yeah.
That was not. That didn't. No, that does not count.
I mean, we got those big TVC display pieces.
Yeah.
So it's not like they didn't get anything.
Right. But we definitely, of course, there's been a lot of leaks out about a Zizor, the Phaline prince from the Shadows of the Empire books, and right next to him, far more exciting for me, like this little guy right here, Savage Opress will finally be getting a Black Series figure, all armored up, which is amazing to see because his brother Maul has like 4, almost by the time SDCC really finishes, 5 different Mauls have been produced. We have Shirtless Maul, which I have right here on my display. We have now the Sith Speeder Maul. We're going to have the Phantom Menace Maul. Then we're going to have a single release of that Maul. And we have the very first Phantom Menace, like Black Series orange box Maul. So there have been a lot of Darth Mauls. Extremely popular character. I understand why.
Also, there's a lot of Darth Maul on the show. So.
Yes, there's a lot of Darth Maul in Star Wars, period. But I'm very excited to finally get Savage because that was always I love Savage's look so much. Very, very, very exciting for that one. Again, the TVC though is getting a 4-pack from Amazon of the Shriek-Hawk group, which that's really cool. We're getting a Shriek-Hawks, of course, in Black Series as well, which we've already covered. But those are some Target exclusives and Walmarts and things like that.
There's also the 3 Ahsoka pack as well. I think it's a 3-pack. It's got the Stormtroopers and
the Army Builder pack.
Yeah, it's got the what's in the Army Builder because I believe it
has Enoch and 3 Night Troopers. If you're talking about the TVC small pack.
No, there's a Black Series one.
Oh yes, the Black Series one will have Enoch and 1 Night Trooper in it. It's a 2-pack, sadly. And
there's also a slightly different version because of the Sith. Can't think of his name. The leader, the main bad guy in that one.
In Ahsoka?
Yeah.
Thrawn?
No, not Thrawn.
Baylan Skoll.
Sith guy. Baylan, yes. There's a new Baylan.
He's not a Sith, but I get what you're saying.
I mean, there's nothing to say he's not a Sith.
Him. But there's gonna be, I think the biggest announcement
as well, but not that big. Because we're getting 5 new of the Holos.
I'm so surprised they're making any more new Holo figures. They don't sell well. I've never seen, like, I see them on the page.
The only
constantly.
one that's cool is the Vader, I think. Just to have a Holo Vader would be kind of cool to do, like a little hologram Vader.
And I can understand that one. For a play set, like if you wanted to put him like a Holo Vader, like talking to Inquisitors or something, that would be really cool. Yeah. But
I think the other one, isn't there one Maul?
Yep. That's another Maul figure. So Maul's getting 1, Vader's getting 1. There's a few other people getting those Holo figures, but I've never cared too much for those things. Speeder Maul on his Sith Speeder is an entire SDCC exclusive until, I believe, a few days after, probably a few weeks after, honestly. Then it will be up, I believe, on Hasbro Pulse, maybe Shop Disney, maybe. The other one that we've gotten some really cool live footage pictures of is the Commander Gree and Yoda 2-pack from the clones of, or like whatever they're calling that, like little clone detachment where they're doing a Jedi and the clone that comes with them. Not a big fan of that Gree, just because he just looks like Gree's subordinate and not Gree himself. It is a comic
Yeah,
adaptation of Gree.
yeah, they're using the pre-movie Gree is why.
Yeah,
Um,
which just makes him look
it's
like just one of his troopers.
yeah, it's. I mean, we already had one of the best Grees we're gonna get
Yeah,
in Black Series, so I
love
don't
that
see
Gree.
I mean, it would be cool to have like that version of Gree, but in Phase One, because there is that art. It just
Hmm.
was never used. Which is way better than the version they used, which
Yeah.
is like you said, it looks like a normal clone.
The
Um,
Yoda sculpt is amazing, though. It comes with his own throne chair. That chair has got a lot of us really hoping they're going to do more of these Jedi Council members with their chairs. Because
yeah,
I mean, also at the same time, though, guys, you can get the chairs off of Etsy or a nice 3D print shop for super cheap. So if they don't do it, someone else will,
yeah.
100%. But the Yoda comes with
However,
two heads. The Yoda sculpt head is phenomenal, and it's the
the jet,
only prequel revenge or like prequel Yoda we've gotten.
if they need a Black Series idea though for another pulse, um, doing the Jedi Council would be
Hmm.
pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Because yeah, you
Black
could
Series
do like
HasLab.
the main ones, and then
Yep.
you could just keep adding on to them, for the more like they do the extras, or you can add like attachments onto the building. You could have like a
Hmm.
training room. You could have like the youngling room, for Anakin role play later on. You have a library attachment. You know,
Yeah.
it'd be cool. You could have a whole like attached rooms, or you could just if they want to be really cheap. They could just add the council moments that aren't as exciting because they want to do the main ones at least
Right.
the
Well,
or
we've got Windu, we've got Obi-Wan, we've gotten let's see, Kiadi now. Of course, we're getting Yoda with
yeah
his
yeah yeah.
chair. So if they just give us a few of the chairs they haven't, and then like a nice pillared kind of like set for it all, um, then the big thing would be to
We have a platoon, don't we? He's on. I don't know.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
we have
remember
a
if he was
Black
in the.
Series Plo Koon. I think one of the other big things that they're really going to need to do, like, I could see a stretch goal being though, like Yariel Poof would definitely. I'd say like Yariel
Well,
Poof.
he's the whole reason I won it in the
Yeah,
first place.
yeah, you got to have a Yariel Poof. I can never. I feel so bad. But Kanan
Yeah,
Jarrus's master.
I guess it depends on which time frame they do it. So it's like you into episode one, episode two, because it does change.
Hmm.
And there's some like Shakti's on it at one time, so it depends if you want to do that.
Yeah,
And
man, Shakti needs a
but,
Black Series figure regardless, though. I'm
yeah,
surprised. I'm surprised she hasn't gotten one yet. Being like one of the few, Aya Sakura, we've gotten her. Is she a? I don't know. Is she even on? Is she a Jedi Council member?
I'm probably at one time, I imagine.
Yeah, true. There's been a lot on and off, but there'd be it'd be easy to put some stretch goals and add things like that. And like you said, yeah, put like a holocron library wall for one of the stretch goals kind of thing. But that I hope they will take precedence from how good TVC HasLabs have done with the stretch goals being extra figures that are exclusive to that HasLab. I think that would help a lot more than wall accoutrement and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it definitely it's very exciting to see. You showed me actually recently. We're also getting a new Hot Wheels Phantom Menace Naboo Starfighter, or not Starfighter, but the Star Cruiser, pretty much the one that the
Yeah.
Queen takes. Which, yeah, the box art on that is really nice. That is
It's
a
got
really good
the
box.
a cutout of Qui-Gon and Darth Maul dueling outside the ship. The
Yeah.
iconic scene of that.
Yep.
We're also getting for the Acolyte fans, we're getting Venestra.
Yep. That was a
That
quick
came out.
leak. I know it's odd. It was put up, immediately taken down, so that's how we know it's pretty much gonna happen. Then, like, that's true. They wouldn't have taken it down if it was just a false flag. With Vernestra Rowe, she's coming with her normal lightsaber. I don't get why people are already trying to bitch about her only having the normal lightsaber and not her lightsaber whip. I'm like, how would you? How are you gonna pose her with a light? It's either she has a
I mean,
normal lightsaber or she would have a hard like S-shaped
yeah,
lightsaber.
well, they have that kind of with Gunpla where they have it's slightly bendable, but they have it where it's either like swirly or like bend
Mm-hmm.
because they have whips in Gunpla,
Yeah.
and it's easily they could do it because you could easily just detach the blade and put a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'm surprised they haven't done detachable blades by now. Now that I think about it, because it's easily doable. They do it in Gunpla. I mean, it's
Yeah.
essentially the same thing.
Well, I mean, like Dooku came with one. He came with a normal one and then like a swooshing one that kind of had like a little effect coming off of it.
All you gotta
But
do is a peg, and it just fits in there. It's like,
every lightsaber does that though. Like every single lightsaber is removable.
I've had a couple that weren't, but I guess it's the older ones. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, the older ones probably not yet, but all newer, like the Jeki Loam I just opened and stuff like that, they all
Yeah,
have a removable.
I don't buy Jedi very often, and most
Yeah.
of them I haven't opened. So,
But
um,
I'm not surprised. I just don't know why everyone is like, but the lightsaber whip. I'm like, that's not her whole shtick. She's just the first one you've seen. I
yeah,
get
she's
it,
also
but
green.
yeah, she's also a Miralon. That's pretty cool. A lot of people are already making the joke though that all they're gonna do is get purple super glue and then just make the whip.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily make it. It's not
Yeah.
that hard to do. Yeah, I mean, there's also modders on that make light up lightsabers. I see for Black
Oh,
Series.
I guarantee you the Etsy community has already thought up a way to make a lightsaber whip to sell to people who get this figure, which is awesome. Now, a big one that I'm really excited for,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Stop, which
yeah,
is weird
it's
name,
the
but
biggest one.
yeah,
Yeah, well, it's an acronym. I don't remember what it stands for.
me
It's
either. But it's more or less the separatist speeder that the B1 battle droids will fly around. You see it a lot in Phantom Menace, all over the
the
Clone
best thing
Wars.
is for is the B ones never
Hmm.
can stand up on their own. So to have one on a staff is my favorite.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah, those poor B1 battle droids. I got like all my
Single
Clone Wars, he has to be on his knees or he falls over all the time. It's
single
silly.
trooper aerial platform.
Single trooper aero platform. That makes sense. That sounds very
Well,
Star Warsy. It comes with its own stand, of course, because as it would, because they are a constant floating type of
yeah,
speeder. They don't have any like landing base on them whatsoever. So it's very the box art's really good. It takes that classic revenge.
yeah,
I keep messing that up. Phantom Menace, the black and
yeah,
red like sun rays with the nice background.
yeah. It reminds me of the original box art we had back when the episode one figures came out.
Yeah, but it also has the nice
Also,
badge up there for 25 years of
it's
Phantom Menace.
it's the most detailed non-premium like sideshow step we've ever gotten because we've had
Hmm.
steps in the past, but they're very very plain.
Yeah.
This actually got detail work in it. It's nice. It's cool to have detailed, and it's a fun
Hmm.
vehicle, especially in video games, and it's a cool design.
And I really hope it doesn't just stay as like I don't think it's a pure exclusive for the con, and I hope it's not. Fingers crossed, because this would be a really good way for us to show Black Series that we still like having vehicles in the Black Series. I know like the TIE Fighter is massive, so a lot of people were kind of iffy on that. There's I have the dewback displayed. It's not that hard to do. You just got to figure a way around it. But I would love more vehicles, creatures, and things like that in Black Series. Which that's the big thing that draws people to the vintage collection is all the accessories and the vehicles and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it is harder when you literally double the scale.
Well, speaking of all the accessories, we got
Hmm.
two announcements in preview. I know we haven't really hit. I mean, General Giant showed a couple pieces off, but
Yeah.
for Hot Toys and Sideshow, I imagine we're gonna get it soon. They always show a lot during San Diego Comic Con, so we will probably either tomorrow. I'm imagining it's gonna be big on set. We because this isn't really Thursday's kind of not an official con day, so we are
Hmm.
not getting everything dumped yet. We're gonna get a ton tomorrow. Probably a lot. I
Saturday
can't
will be
remember
nuts.
what the normal figure day is because there's usually a day they do most of the figure
Yeah.
announcements. I think it's Saturday. I can't. It's one of the days.
Yeah. Today was a lot of like the Acolyte and High Republic comics and books stuff for Star Wars at least. A lot of panels about the books and upcoming comics.
Yeah, we usually get all the figures all in one day because,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, the big two premium that isn't a part of the con, so this isn't con related at all. This is previous before San Diego Comic Con. First one we got announced was General Grievous.
Ooh, he looks so
Um,
good.
really good design. This is a Hot Toys. He has a lot of attachments. Of course, he has with a lot of the new uh, Force user or just sabering wielders. They're all LED blades. So you get 4 LED blades. You get his cape that you can pose. And a lot of the capes actually come wired, so you can actually do a flowing effect with the cape. Most people
Nice.
don't know that if you haven't gotten a Hot Toys before. So that's always fun with the cloaks. You can have like blowing in the wind. And he's got some attachments. Um, One of the coolest one, he's got the electro staff, and a blaster, and apparently his eyes are posable, which are interesting. So yeah, it's it's real. It's probably the best Grievous we've gotten so far.
Yeah.
I would say it would be top contender for Hot Toys of the Year
If it,
until they
yeah.
drop the next one, which is the Vader. And it's not any Vader we've gotten before. This is a damaged Vader. We say, hey, we've gotten a damaged Vader before, but not in this detail with
Mm-hmm.
Hot Toys.
A damaged Vader always ends up on top tier lists. They're just one of the. They always come out as some of the best figures. Last year, of course, Golden Kyber Award for figure went to on the smaller end of things. The smaller line of toys went to TVC's Death Star 2 Vader, and this new Vader we're getting will probably easily take Premium Toys #1 because it is just gorgeous.
Well, I mean, not only does it come with this awesome light up stand and LED blades, so as the swishing and the normal blade, but also his battle damage is the most battle damage we've gotten. So you
Mm-hmm.
can have it semi damaged, or you can have the full like gash where you can see his chest. You could have just the whole robot arm showing, and they have multiple helmets. You could do no mask at all, just the lower part. You can do half mask, or you
Yeah.
can do complete damage mask. And then you get a full robotic exposed arm and leg with wires and everything. It is very well done.
Oh yeah.
Um, the 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 burnt skin is just so well done. The damage is cleanly done. A lot of places get the damage effect wrong, how
Yeah.
metal scores and stuff, and it's so nice. Again,
Well,
also
like small
wired
touches
cloak
too.
and
Yeah,
everything.
the small touches like with those wires, they're not all the same length. They're not all the same. Like, so it's not just like something went through and just clipped wires. Like, it's actually like ripped and torn. It's very very well done.
Yeah, it's it probably gonna be a very expensive figure with just so much detail work. So assume it's gonna be not the standard because the standard price typically is around $270
Mm-hmm.
for a typical one. I imagine Grievous is gonna be higher. And this is gonna be really high because it's got the special base and stuff. So I imagine we're
I'll
looking
give this
probably
to
closer to
Grievous though.
600.
That Grievous one is almost more of a lamp. If you have all four of those lightsabers plugged in, then that's gonna put off a pretty good amount of light.
Yeah, you're gonna have to either the constant charging of the USB or of the see if you can get it plugged in. It's gonna be difficult, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, both really awesome figures. Surprised they weren't announced in San Diego Comic Con, so I can't imagine what they have planned.
True.
Um, Usually things are cycle behind. They may do some Acolyte because they have pretty much done all the Ahsoka figures already.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Unless you're going to do some more of Phantom Menace, since that is still the theme apparently with some of the figures we're getting.
Right.
So,
I wouldn't be surprised for Hot Toys to do like a Vernestra with a light whip and like all a bunch of accessories or
well, if they did the Nestor, she would for
Chimere.
sure get a full whip.
Yeah. I could see Chimere too. We're hoping, fingers crossed, for a Chimere Black Series announcement because that'd be really good.
His would be cool because they would for sure do like the removable helmet and
Mm-hmm.
vambrace and probably a damaged version as well when he gets it whacked off. And
Yeah.
so yeah, we get a lot of things. I mean, and hopefully to be like an extra. I'm sure his lightsaber will be come apart as well.
Oh, true. Yeah, they have
So
the
you can have it
Shoto
dual
and
bladed. So
that. Yeah.
you could get I'm sure they'll have a Jackie option where you could have the
Yeah, Jackie counterpart with just the holes.
that would be so funny if they did a Jackie one as well, and he just set it up to where he's stabbing her, that scene, or the scene where he's pulling the two Jedi.
Oh yeah, and then the decapitation behind the tree, that was awesome. As we've already kind of talked about a little bit, though, the Star Wars Unlimited cards, there will be a small pack of exclusive con cards that are, but they're going through Gen Con. They're like everywhere in these next few cons that Star Wars Unlimited is going. Those will be there. They are now. We find out like they're expensive. It's like a $50
Yeah.
thing for these. Come like first come first serve. So these things are gonna fly off the shelves, and scalpers are already trying to sell them for like $400, which is ridiculous.
Are they the black ones?
Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
the character is colored, but then the entire background is like a black and silver hyperspace foil. It looks
Uh,
cool, not
are they
cool
doing
enough
the
for me to
new
blow that
ones,
much
or
money.
are they doing the first and second set ones? Because I know there's like two in each
Yeah,
set.
there's two new. Yeah, there's pretty much two for each set, and then two brand new ones from the next
Yeah.
Clone Wars pack that they'll be releasing later this year. Like it's Dooku. I think it's like a Vader. Then there's Kylo Ren
And we got the new one's Maul
and
and
Asajj.
yes.
Asajj Ventress has a lot of like synergy stuff with other separatists, so you can definitely tell that this next Clone Wars Star Wars Unlimited thing is going to be very like separatist versus clone
It has to
synergy.
be for sure.
Yeah, but they're going to really play together. Like you're going to build whole separatist decks or whole clone decks, which
Yeah, I hope the two decks are gonna have. I mean, I don't know what they're
mhm,
gonna have for the leaders. It could be Ventress.
yeah.
Um,
And we don't have an Anakin
yeah,
yet, so I could definitely see an Anakin.
yeah, it would have to be Anakin because they did iconic leaders. Luke,
Yeah,
Vader, um, and then Gideon and
Mando.
Mando.
So
Because
I could see
that's
this one being like maybe
is there like
Anakin and
because the second set was more of like bounty hunter stuff, more
mhm,
the all that stuff.
scum
So the
and
fact that they
villainy.
use those two to represent that, meaning they want more mainstream characters to
Mhm,
draw in people that aren't super familiar with Star Wars into the
right.
card game. So imagine they're gonna have Anakin as one, and probably
Obi-Wan.
probably not uh Ventress maybe because she's probably considered two because she's Clone Wars. So
Mm.
they might have somebody a little more obvious. Yes, I don't know who it would be because they have.
There's not many separatists. There'd
Yeah.
probably be a Dooku leader. I could see the Count Dooku leader.
Well,
We've
I'm
already got
thinking about for
Palpatine.
the dual pack. Who it
Oh
would
yeah,
be
I mean I could
for
probably honestly see Anakin versus Dooku,
the only one I could think would be, which would be pretty cool, would be
or I guess a Grievous.
Grievous would be probably the best option because
Mm-hmm.
we already have a Dooku and we already have a Darth Maul, and those would be the two biggest. But I
Not
mean, we're
as
probably gonna.
leaders, are they? I don't think there's. Is there a Maul leader? And
I
Dooku's
thought
not a
there
leader.
was. I guess
Dooku is
not.
just a normal card. He's not a leader.
I still think Grievous would probably be more iconic. I
Yeah,
mean,
I would love an Obi-Wan versus Grievous dual pack. I think that would work really well.
yeah, I think it'd be. Yeah, I think that would be better personally because
Mm-hmm.
especially because the Obi-Wan would be better in the two pack because they fight each other.
Right,
But
exactly.
yeah,
But
who knows what we'll get? I mean, we'll definitely get a. I bet we better if we do get a Clone Wars Obi-Wan and Anakin, they better have their armor. I love that stuff. The
yeah,
Clone Wars of them. Uh,
honestly, and fingers crossed for a Rex leader. That'd be so weird not to
if
have a clone
if they
leader.
don't have a Rex, I'm quitting the game.
So a lot to come though from San Diego Comic Con, as it always is. There's going to be so many announcements these next few days. Anything too crazy major, we will happily cover on the channel as they come out. But until then, we have to now look to the future, and the darkest future that we can find is pretty much the lack thereof Sith. When we've left off in the Star Wars main universe, we had Darth Sidious Palpatine with his Sith Eternal cult taking the rule of two that he didn't follow, making it even smaller and having just him. Uh, you know why that's a bad idea? You know, like there's a reason in like the police force, even if you have a small town, you don't have just one cop because if someone gets rid of him, there's no one left. Or like it's a if you have
And they can't be everywhere at once.
exactly.
Yeah.
So Sidious taking the Sith and turning them into the Sith Eternal and then dying is really gonna like castrate like the future Sith.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to really scrounge up all the relics and runes and small little tidbits they can find to try and become a Sith. From the
Well, I know we've talked about before, and I don't want to harp on because we've talked about the theory many of times
mhm,
about the return of the ancient Sith, the new ancient Sith.
yeah,
Because I think today we're going to talk about the old ancient Sith, um, about with the, and then they're not really Sith; they're like the original, some of the original Dark users,
yeah,
that we got introduced originally from Jedi Survivor, I believe, or
hmm,
no, it's
the
the
Zepho,
first
yeah,
the Zepho.
that one Zepho Kujet,
Well, yeah, there's three of them that lead, and then one of them gets dark bound, and he kind of starts the Witches of Dathomir.
hmm,
And so, that's we hinted, we think that because they were bringing back the witches so much that's probably the route they're going to go, because that's probably the easiest route to
yeah,
like restore the Sith, but not under Siege. which is the best option to do.
Yeah.
Because that line kind of needs to die. We need to get
Yes.
past the rule of two, and he doesn't use the rule of two. So yeah, hopefully, we get a not only a new Jedi Order that's not locked into the Skywalkers. I
Mm-hmm.
wish she wouldn't keep the Skywalker name. I wish she'd be her own thing.
It's like that's the
But
only problem
also,
we've ever
yeah,
had with that Skywalker name. It's just like, I just want him to go away. I'm
yeah,
done
it's
with
like
Skywalkers.
I get it. She wants to belong to
Yes.
somebody, but also it's like you have that like like you're relying still to the Skywalker name.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be the new. We have the new Star Wars fans. We want to move on to the new
Oh,
Star Wars characters.
I'm so hopeful that they don't just call the new Jedi Skywalkers, or I'm just gonna barf a little in my mouth because like stop it, just leave them alone. Because then everyone's gonna be like, oh, what are the Skywalkers? Yeah, they saved the galaxy because they ruined it. Oh man, but the big part is with the Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire, an amazing book. I'm definitely getting a copy myself soon. It does actually talk about within that book, because it is a history book set in Star Wars. The New Republic did find all of Sidious's relics and books and tomes on the dark side on Exegol that he kept there, and they took them. So I could very easily see the future of the Sith being someone who is then like semi-force sensitive or something and is being whispered, like one of the excavators who finds all this stuff has been whispered to from the darkness, like, and then steals a bunch of it and starts his own Sith order. We could see that. But having the old Sith come back, the Sith Empire, that right there would really cement a world of conflict.
Yeah.
And as much as people want to say like, oh, we don't need the Jedi versus Sith anymore, that's kind of literally Star Wars. It is the ultimate good, the ultimate evil, selflessness versus selfishness. And the Sith, I feel like, will always be a part of the Jedi's antagonists. If the first movie wants to just set up like the Republic being dickheads, I can kind of get it. But we eventually have to have some dude or dudette or person, they, them, with a red lightsaber doing something, or else it's not gonna feel Star Warsy for 3 movies.
I mean, it'll feel a little hollow. I mean, we could get away with it with a certain enemy, kind of like how they do in the High Republic that isn't Sith related.
True.
But yeah, I agree. I hope it's just not out of the blue. I hope it does set up. We do have this general enemy, but I hope it leads into like we kind of have, like I said in the Acolyte, where I want this great evil, but only for a little bit. We want to, you don't want to throw it all at once, because it's like, you lose that. You want to draw in, and you know how excited you got. You just saw a glimpse of play, just you
Right.
barely even see him. Imagine that on the big screen. Not even like the iconic, like the revive of the Kajut, or
Yeah.
some other ancient Sith. Imagine also the Sith now. If we do have the return of these ancient new style of Sith, combined with because he taught the witches their magic. So imagine the Sith now has these cool magic spells along with their Force abilities. It's a new type of dark Force usage. They're like taking over people's heads, or
and because of
zombies, and
and that's one of the best things about the Night Sisters is if he can help really hone that into this future, dark side groups. If they can really put that together, they don't get as corrupted, meaning that they're not like this pure evil. They're just like this do what we need to survive kind of bad.
It's a new way for Sith to use the Force, which it kind of is like the old style of the Sith, because we got these like old stories of the Sith doing these crazy things like
alchemies
eating whole planets and stuff.
Yeah,
like that extreme. This is kind of possible when you add the Dark Sister magic, but also think of a witch Sith. That'd be kind of cool. One of the witches of Dathomir joins the Sith as well.
Yeah, that would be really awesome. And
I already get that with a little bit, but not fully the magic parts.
Yeah, with the ancient Sith too, like that's the biggest thing is when you're into the legends and you're into the extended universe and stuff like that, then you see like Darth Tenebrous, or Tenebrae, I should say. Tenebrous is Plagueis Master, but Darth Tenebrae was a Sith who literally consumed, like he brought all of the Sith to one planet to talk about how they were going to win the war against the Jedi. He then proceeded to consume every bit of living force on that planet and made himself truly immortal. This immortality thing is not new to the Sith. They had it pretty much on lockdown when it came to the ancient Sith. They knew it took the sacrifice of a lot of life to pour into one person to make them be able to live forever. So, and then we have like Nihilus, who, love him or hate him, from KOTOR 2, can consume the Force essence from planets, but then because he was able to do that, he had to constantly do it, or it would consume him. So it's like, that would be a cool thing too. We have Darth Momin, the Sith who builds Vader's castle for him so that he can try and escape into the world between worlds, into the Force itself to bring Padme back. But all that happens is he opens the gate and Momin's body steps out and it is him fully revived. So like there's so many amazing things that we could do to bring these old Sith back into this new universe. And we have an entire swath of space that is totally unexplored, that it's totally still seen as unroutable, that they could have just been hiding and living in for all of this time. Also then kind of proving the rule of two to be absolutely pointless. I don't know why Bane thought, like, no, we have to stay in this system, but we'll just go down to 2 people versus let's just go somewhere where they don't go.
I think he just more of it because it's more of a selfish aspect of it because he wanted control and didn't want as much competition.
Yes, I could agree with that 100%. Because that's the thing is the old Sith, to me, the reason that they were so powerful and that the Jedi, like they sacked Coruscant, they almost won many times. It was not the infighting that brought down the ancient Sith Empire. Because when you have enough Sith, as Macho Man Randy Savage would say, the cream always rises to the top. The best of the best always work their way to the higher positions.
Yeah, well, that was the whole point. It's like, that was like the whole style of the Sith, and at least in the Old Republic, where it's like, it was very oppressive, very aggressive, and that was the whole point. Is the ones that seek power, they're going to rise to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they were betraying each other, but that was their way of kind of weeding out the weaker ones.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot harder to retire as a Sith because you're going to eventually get killed by a younger Sith.
Right. I've always loved that because the rule of
and power.
The rule of two did nothing to help that though, because every Sith that was killed by the rule of two either died because of his own like arrogance in trying to kill his apprentice, like we have with Darth Bane and Xana, if that ever becomes canon. And then we have things like the way Palpatine got rid of Plagueis, where he just waited till he was drunk and napping and then attacked him. That's not how the Sith are supposed to act. Like in the Plagueis book, it even mentions like, yes, that was the only moment in like Sidious v Plagueis's time together that Plagueis had ever let his guard down, which yeah, that was dumb. But also, you attacked the man while he was asleep and drunk, aka you didn't think you could win hand to hand. So there's like, I would love to have seen what would have happened if Sidious actually tried to take on Plagueis at like full awake, full power, because that's how you would have actually known, okay, he is now ready to take on the mantle of Dark Lord because he was able to beat me at my strongest.
Yeah, it was always supposed to be the whole dynamic of challenging the higher. Mm-hmm. So it keeps those guys in the spot, always sharpening their edge and not getting old and lazy. And then the ones under still trying to make themselves better so they can be better. And so that was the whole kind of, it was never supposed to be the master killing his apprentice because he wanted to keep up there.
Yeah.
Which we did see with Sidious.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
I mean, with Dooku, he was like, yes, Anakin, kill him now.
He constantly set up his apprentices like small to die constantly. He used them, like Maul was always supposed to die. He was never supposed to stick around.
If the Plagueis books becomes canon or like far more canon, by the time of Phantom Menace, Higo Damask, Darth Plagueis, is not dead yet. So that whole Darth Maul thing, that was Palpatine doing exactly what Dooku did with Ventress. Not a Sith, but has like 80% of the Sith teachings, you know? Or with things like when we get to Darth, what is it? With Vader and like the Inquisitors, the Grand Inquisitor literally had Sith eyes. So that's one of those things like, no, I know you want to say there were only two Sith, but that's obviously not true when the Grand Inquisitor himself has full-blown Sith eyes. So he's read enough. They now, and there's a canon book, Rise of the Red Blade, where they talk about these Inquisitors were not given the full knowledge of the dark side, but Palpatine did litter a few dark side texts and scrolls into a library that they were allowed to read. So they're like semi-Sith. They're acolytes. They're just not pure-blooded apprentices.
Well, I mean, and it's hard to really call yourself a Sith at that point when you don't have an order anymore. Because that's the whole point of calling a Sith. Because it's like the Jedi. It's a faction, and when you go down to two, it's really hard to really defend yourself calling yourself the Sith anymore. Because you don't have an order. You don't have traditions that you're passing down. You're just two guys that say you're a Sith.
Yeah, it's more of a sorority.
So that's what I always joke about. I mean, it's having the same thing with Boba Fett and having the same thing with like Sidious and Darth Vader. There's this whole another faction based on these characters, but now the factions evolved so big based on those characters that they actually, it's like now that you think about it, they actually don't belong to the faction. Like,
yeah,
it's not really Mandalorian. I know we talk about it, and Sidious isn't really a Sith. So it's
going back.
Kind of gets into it with the sequels, I guess, because he gets the whole. But I don't know if I would really call him a full-on Sith because he doesn't follow Sith traditions. He doesn't have it's not really a Sith order. It's just like him and occasionally apprentices that he kills off. So.
It's so aggravating to me when people say, "Well, that's just it, though. A Sith is supposed to be the most selfish thing around." No, that even the Sith code does not say, "I get my power from being selfish." Like, no, you are supposed to be constantly bettering yourself. The illusion of the dark side, and I will call it that as much as I agree with the dark side sometimes more than the light side, because the light side has a lot of hypocrites in it. The dark side is use this power, use the Force to make yourself as powerful, as strong, and as victorious as you possibly can. Always pushing yourself to do bigger and better things. That's why Darth Malgus, to me, is one of the, is a great Sith. He even saw the Emperor of the entire Sith Empire, hundreds of thousands of Sith, and said, "You're not doing good enough. You're not warring enough. You're not challenging enough."
Yeah. Well, he's one of the ones that had the most competition when it comes to Jedi, because he fought. When you look at some of the other ancient Sith that are probably more powerful than him, but he's probably the most battle tested in my opinion than pretty much most of the Old Republic Sith.
Oh yeah, going up against Satil Shan constantly, going up against countless Jedi Masters and winning. He is the guy who sacked the Jedi Temple.
She would destroy. She would just probably destroy Maul in the episode, early Maul.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she's really powerful. She's got. I mean, you look at what we have of them using the Force and stuff, and she's so powerful. I mean, it's like it's different because it's like the power level kind of creep. It's so weird that it's like way more powerful back then.
Yeah,
what we get in the movies. So I get it's kind of a realism take.
Yeah,
but yeah. If we base, I mean, we don't know for sure what's fully canon on, but yeah, if we go by what we have,
the Old Republic's
more battle tested. I would say. I was going to say Darth Revan, but even then, he didn't fight as much Jedi as.
No, and the second he did, when he became himself again, he was stronger as a Jedi than he was as a Sith, because that was who he really was. He was only a Sith because the Emperor was literally in his mind, constantly messing with him and controlling him a little bit. That's the only reason he became a Dark Lord, is because of Darth Tenebrae, or Vitiate at that time, who was simply just Darth Tenebrae puppeting a different body. But the ancient Sith, the reason that they were so powerful, and the ancient Jedi, the reason that they were so powerful, is because they were constantly at war with one another.
Well, then the orders were so big.
Yes, but that's the Jedi had to be strong, or they would have been wiped out by the Sith. Yeah. So as much as the Jedi might disagree with the Sith ideology, if the Sith had not been fighting the Jedi as much as they were, then the Jedi would they would not have been as nearly as powerful, and they would not have any of the influence that they did within the Republic. Which, as we see now in the Acolyte, is what bites them in the ass, is because the Republic's like, You guys are this giant, unsanctioned, unwatched powerhouse cult that just says you do it under the guise of religion and that you can control your emotions. But obviously, as we've seen from countless Jedi, you can't.
Yeah, and in a way, you can think about how, like World War II, we had two major factions, the Allies and the Axis, that were the dominant warring, and they were so powerful. One side got so powerful, it wiped out the other side, and they're non-existent. So now the current allies are
Mm-hmm.
now the dominant faction, where the people that belong to the Axis are this kind of, it's no longer, they're never heard of anymore. It's just
Yep.
kind of like pariah to even mention. So it's a way to think about it that way. And when you get into the High Republic, so it's kind of interesting to think about it in that way. But if you go back to where
Mm-hmm.
both were so large and battle tested, we think about the jet planes that they had were being built during the 40s, and some of the crazy things that were being built, war machines being devised and being
Yeah.
made. It's the same thing, because one thing that made the Sith so powerful back then is they were almost a sort of united front, but they
Right.
were an actual faction, because the Sith is a faction. It's not a person,
Yeah.
and that gets lost. And so the Sith Order was so vast, and it was several planets,
Yep.
um, and they were sharing. You think about the idea of sharing knowledge and passing down traditions and combat styles, and and now that doesn't get to happen because there's only like two Sith at one
Mm-hmm.
time.
And
Um,
honestly, it's almost kind of crazy to think about it, but if you really put it down to brass tacks, the Jedi owe the Sith forever becoming as great as they are.
yeah,
If the Sith had not been that other force, the Jedi would not be what they are in the
yeah,
galaxy today. The Jedi almost need the Sith more than the Sith need the Jedi. If the Sith had won, then they would have controlled the entire galaxy, especially the ancient Sith, not like Palpatine's Sith. They would have
yeah.
controlled it. Yes, it would have been horrible for what they considered sub races that or subspecies. We're never ever are we sitting here saying that the Sith have the perfect idea. They're still bad people. They would do bad things as long as you were above the bottom class. If you, even with aliens though, as long as you were the guys like that's the world today. That's what sucks about it the most, and that's what people hate about the Sith. I think more than anything is if you look at the Sith in charge, it's what we're doing in our world today. Sadly, if you're not at the 1%, you're just not going to have a good enough life like compared to everybody else. Like there
I
are
mean, it's a little
literally
more
classes
extreme
of much more,
because yeah,
but the
they had
class
slaves
system,
and they killed people easily. But yeah.
yeah, but I can show you parts on the world right now that are doing that still.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the part of the world, but yeah, yeah. Well, I'm just saying that'd be it's an
It's
extreme
much more.
version, but yeah,
Yes. Yes.
I see what you're saying. Not saying you're wrong or anything.
But yeah, with the
Um,
Jedi, when now that they've won, they became complacent. They became mired by politics and bribes. They became completely filled with very, very egotistical Jedi who thought they could do no wrong. Again,
but
we
they kind
see that.
of lose their purpose, so they
Yes.
kind of make up a new purpose of which, like, they're exploring the galaxy, and then they have to have temples in every planet.
Yep.
Um,
But
but
all
that's
over the
still
High Republic, constantly there are people on these planets going, "We don't need you here." Yes, we're in the middle of a war, but like all you've done now is completely throw off the balance that this planet had, and now we can't like feed everyone or things like, okay, well,
yeah.
cool, you helped these guys out, can you help us out? Well, no, we're busy right
Yeah,
now. Well,
so
hold on.
it's either they don't get involved at all, like we saw on like the High Republic books at the beginning, where they
Mm-hmm.
refuse to get involved. They watch people die and travesties, and they have their own bureaucracies to deal with, where they
Yeah.
have to we got to vote before we decide if we want to do something to help anyone. It's like the whole point of being a Jedi is like you want to help people, you want to
Yeah.
help keep balance of the Force. But then you don't even know what the balance of the Force actually means.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to maintain it in the first place? So.
And the other crazy thing too is like if anyone here has played a lot of Elder Scrolls games, think of the Sith a lot like the Dark Elves. They believe in a faction of if you can steal from me and I can't stop you, or if I do try to stop you, you can beat me up and still take it. Then I obviously didn't deserve it that much, did I? It
Yeah,
is,
well, it's and then the whole idea is to keep, it's the whole like iron sharpens iron.
yeah,
Like I don't want to be stolen from, so I'm constantly getting stronger. And then, or you want to steal from me, so you're going to constantly get stronger. So you
Yep.
can get stronger than me, but I'm going to get stronger, so I keep you from stealing from me. It just keeps that cool, complacent thing where so you don't have 80-year-old feeble men in charge that can barely comprehend anything.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the right way to do things,
Of
but
course.
there is benefits, but also it's like, yeah, you don't want to be, enslaved or
Yeah.
killed or stolen from constantly. So there's
If you're a force user or a high up senator or someone who like runs a planet, then the Empire and the dark side, man, a-okay. But for everyone else, yes, it's terrible. It's a horrendous life. It's not good. It is the evils we see on our world turned up to 25, like way past 11. Like this speaker is blown out. But it's also the complacency of the Jedi is blown out of
yeah.
proportion too. Their ability to they have that same holier than thou, greater than thou kind of ideology, but at least they aren't forcing it on others. Right, but that's the problem with the
Talking
Jedi.
about the force sensitive children that they could just abduct because
Yeah,
they have the right to.
exactly. The Jedi are colonizers. The Sith are fascist imperialists. Like neither are great, but at least one of them taking your kid. They're like, yeah, but if we don't take your kid, he might force choke you to death one day if you're not careful.
He's going to be a monk for the Catholic Church. No big deal.
Yeah, don't worry about it, okay? Just don't worry about it.
He'll never have.
And by the way, when he goes on crusade, yeah, don't worry about that either. When we send him on a holy crusade to go take something or do something.
So yeah, I mean, they weren't the perfect. They are the good guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's what makes a lot of stories the best. But yeah, the fun thing that we have, and that's one thing I would like to get more books and comics with the Old Republic.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I want to show, because to me the Old Republic is almost this kind of like more epic fantasy version of Star Wars. If we did probably a cartoon, because I don't want it to be limited. The cool thing that makes the Old Republic, especially the Sith, so interesting and so cool, because it's that exaggeration.
Yeah.
Whether it actually is true or if it's the whole legends aspect where it's like passed down, we don't know what really happened, and so it's exaggerated over time through tales, the word of mouth.
Yeah.
But we got, like we mentioned with Nihilus, just imagine that would be so extreme to have. But then there was not so extreme ones that were also pretty cool.
Well, I mean, we have Darth Sion, another immortal Sith who can't die because he's so angry that he cannot die. You literally the easiest way to kill Sion in KOTOR 2 is you talk to him and tell him that he can give up on his anger, and then he's like, "Wait, that's a possibility," and then he just dies.
Now, if we have if they do decide to ever do a character, if they have to do an Old Republic show, the character I think that would be the best to do in live action without worrying about these extremities of like Nihilus and Revan and stuff like that would be Exar Kun.
Yeah.
He's probably the most down to earth and coolest backstory or story in general. Which also, you were talking about a Sith temptation thing with the new movies. If they did, if they want to do that, Exar Kun story is like the way to do it.
Yes. Because Exar Kun. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say those that don't know, he was essentially a Jedi.
Yep.
That came across Sith relics and texts and stuff, and it was basically just he got a hold of forbidden Sith knowledge like through relics and stuff, and he got tempted by it and became a Sith Lord.
Which again, I always got to say, if you can just read somebody else's ideology and immediately be swayed by it, were the things you were taught actually that strong in the beginning? Because obviously, like that's the thing is when a Jedi gets into the dark side or learns about freedom and learns about their freedom of choice, the freedom of expression, of love, of passion, they almost always fall. It's almost like it's the nature of living creatures to want to love, to be passionate. The only reason humans we flesh and blood humans that aren't sadly in a galaxy far, far away, The only reason we're on this planet and survived and became the apex predator is passion, anger, love, ego, and drive. That's it. It's the worst parts of us, but it's what made us better than everything else.
Yeah, it's funny because the Sith allow that, and if they didn't kill each other off to just two people, hence like starting over the population,
Yeah.
they would have easily eventually outnumbered the Jedi for sure.
Oh yeah. It would have been they don't even have to do anything besides just stand there and go like, "Oh yeah, well that's my wife and those are my kids and I'm still technically more powerful than you, but you know what? Hey, I won't even fight you. But what do you think of that?" Like half the Jedi Order would go, "Well, he can do that?" Like, well, yeah, but you can't because you'll just be evil. Like, but he seems like a pretty nice guy to his family. Yeah, but you should ask the people who get in his way. Well, then just don't get in his way.
And yeah, if it wasn't for like the movies that originally started, like why is there only the two of them, and they had to write it a certain way to make it all fit. They eventually had to explain why there's only two Sith, so it was kind of a cop out with using that.
Yeah.
But also the only way to explain why there isn't millions of Sith around, because it's like eventually you got to be like, why wouldn't I want to join him? Or like, because they're allowed to procreate, so why don't they have a bunch of Sith babies everywhere?
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. They literally, it's almost like the old Republic, the ancient Sith, would be nearly impossible to beat because they can just replenish their own ranks. And
I mean, Jedi can typically procreate, depending on what part of the timeline, but I mean, they can't really keep the kids in a way.
They have to be able to, like, if a Jedi got pregnant and had a child that is force sensitive, that Jedi has to be completely okay with the idea of giving that child up then to the Order to be trained. And it would definitely not be on the same planet. They'd be like, okay, well, we're going to put you guys on opposite ends of the galaxy.
And you can never show any love to that kid ever again.
Yeah. And that's just not human. And I understand, again, the Jedi are the good guys. They are the balance of the Force, and the balance is the good stuff. But to me, again, so we have the ability to be gods almost. And you're telling me I have to just do what the thing that gave us these powers wants us to do, even though I don't know what it wants us to do. And the second I feel passionate or attached to something, I'm now falling away from the super space power that gave me these powers. How does that make sense?
They're not even supposed to use the powers at all either. So, like, one thing that happened to Acolyte that Vanessa did when she was kind of showing a little attitude, where she shoved the door open with the Force. You're not supposed to do that as a Jedi. You're not supposed to control things with the, like, it's not supposed to be something to use like for menial tasks.
Like literally, when Anakin is pulling the pear thing to his fork, he's like, Obi-Wan would be so mad at me if he saw me doing this, because they're not supposed to flaunt their powers. They're only supposed to use. It's like their lightsaber. They should only use it when they have to. Or like mind tricking people. Man, Jedi love to mind trick people, and that's not allowed.
Yeah, we find out, at least in the early High Republic, apparently not in the later High Republic. You're not supposed to be doing that. It's a pretty no.
Because you're literally tampering with somebody's memories and mind to make them think something else. So a mind trick is a dark side thing. But again, like, so you're telling me I now have the powers of a god, and you don't expect me to exert my will and make the world around me better?
What? And you have an awesome lightsaber, and you're not really supposed to use it.
Then why are we doing this? Like, okay, so then why do the Jedi have such a kibosh and a hold on kyber crystals? Oh, well, if we gave kyber crystals to other planets, they would make devastating weapons and destroy each other. They do that anyway. Why does that matter? Like, why do you get to say what and how people do or do not do things? Like, that's... You are placing your wants and beliefs on the galaxy, whereas the Sith are like, no, we're not placing our wants on you. We're just telling you this is how it's going to be, or you're not going to be around.
Well, yeah, at least the Sith is straightforward. They're not going to give you crystals because they want to for themselves.
Yeah.
They want to keep the power.
They'll straight up just tell you, oh no, that's because we have a lot of weapons and we need these crystals for our weapons. Well, what about my weapons against you? What?
Yeah, you want weapons against me?
Yeah, that's not allowed. Get rid of that guy. Is it the right way to do it? Not at all. Again, it's just turned up to 11. But are the Sith the most human aspect of Star Wars? Yes. Put the Force on this planet right now, and you really think the Jedi would be victorious? No, they wouldn't. Too many people, we're all too old to be trained. And think of that. Well, we can't train an adult to be a Jedi because they have too much attachment already. So then that sounds like your order is flawed because the only thing you can do is indoctrinate children.
Yeah. And then who's going to give it the child, unless you either have the public brainwash to think that it's a duty they have to serve, or you're just taking the children.
Yeah. And for a lot of it, yes, there are a lot of planets where they think, well, it's like a holy thing. Oh my gosh, they get to be a Jedi. How amazing to be lifted from this planet. But then you read most of these Jedi's journals and their stories and books, and they go, I want a hug. Can I please just have a hug?
And then if they don't go through the trials properly, or if they mess up, they can either be neutered by the Force or just be basically just
a librarian.
Yeah, that works in the temple.
So and it's not even that they don't pass a trial because they're not strong enough. It's like, no, you have too much attachment. You have too much dark side in you, so we can't allow you to be a Jedi. Well, hold on. You took me from my family. You took me from the life I could have had, and because I failed to follow your path, I'm not allowed to leave.
To forget about your previous family.
Yeah. Wait, am I being kidnapped? No. Am I allowed to leave? No. Well, hold on.
Remember that family you had before? Yes. Well, can't be a Jedi.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You just can't be a Jedi now. I could do good things for people, though, and still love people. No, because it's too easy to be tempted by the dark side. Okay, so what you're telling me, again, they say that the Force is only good because it is balanced. But that's the one thing I'll fight George Lucas about till the day I die. And I know he's the creator. Yes, everyone has said the Jedi are the good guys because the Force must be at balance. The dark side isn't like... It's weird to think about. It's like, I just don't understand how the thing that creates life, and life has love. If the Force didn't want people to be in love, why did it make it? Whatever thing created and manipulated the midichlorians or whatever it did to create life in this galaxy far, far away, or it just spontaneously popped up one day with a Big Bang and then the Force did a Big Bang 2 or something. How is that the dominant belief that being an emotionless, selfless person... I guess the best way to put it is in layman's terms, if the Force didn't want there to be a dark side, why would it have one? I don't know either. It's apparently not supposed to be the question that's ever going to be answered. The dark side is the perversion of the Force, but it's also the easiest, quickest route. So I feel like if the Force really wanted to shut that off, it could probably just turn off dark side powers. No more Force lightning.
Well, Dave Filoni, I'm assuming because he was in charge of both projects, kind of reintroduced the idea that kind of took that the good side is the balance, because when he did that with Rebels and Clone Wars, we had the Bendu and the a deal with Ahsoka with the brother, the sister, the father.
But man, even with the
it's that just balance
because when you
just the Jedi's version.
Bro, when you look at the Bendu, Kanan Jarrus hates the Bendu for the way he acts. Well, there's a whole war going on. You could stop it. No, that is not my role in life. Like with Yoda.
He's pure neutral.
Yeah, he's pure neutral.
Well, he even talks, I think even at the point he talks about the dark side, and he goes, there is no dark side.
Right, there is just balance. There is life and there is death, and there is taking life and there is giving life. That is the Force. And Kanan's like, well, hold on, that sounds pretty dark side. He's like, what? No.
Yeah.
To be purely of the Force is to pretty much do a bearish vow and just sit in one spot meditating forever. That's true balance. You're not inflicting your will on anyone else. Like, well, we got to save all this whole village is about to be slaughtered by these evil marauders. So that's the will of the life, I guess. Yeah. So just let it happen.
So will the Force that happen.
Yeah. What? So the Jedi are really not balanced as much as they'd like to believe
No.
they are.
They have the idea that they think they are the protectors of balance, the protectors of the Force, when they, in a way, are just as bad as the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
They're just on the opposite spectrum.
They just don't have gross faces and ugly eyes. And like, again, if the guy who made KOTOR did specifically say the Sith code that I wrote, which has now somewhat become canonized by a few lines being mentioned here and there,
Yeah.
was based off fascism, 100%. Because they have to do what they can to make them evil, or everyone would like the Sith more than the Jedi. Like,
Yeah,
everyone.
it's supposed to be like they want things to be like they want to make clear that they are the bad guys,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want to do it too much where it's like a cartoonish bad guy thing. Um, you want to have, because humans aren't just black and white.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mix of gray, but you want to have it a lot darker so that it's clear that the Sith aren't to be idolized.
Right.
Like, as an ideology, you can think they're cool. It's cool to dress up as like Malgus or something, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to live your life as Malgus. And the same thing with the Jedi. I mean, if you lived your life as a Jedi, you'd have a miserable life, and I don't know if you would have too many friends either.
Well, I mean,
So
like
that's just it.
with the monks we have on this planet, they enjoy their life, but do they enjoy their life because they chose to be a monk, or because they know nothing else?
Well, it's also that I wouldn't even compare them to monks in real life, because the monks here, they don't go into battle and
Not
wars and
anymore,
lead
yeah.
armies. It's like the Jedi do that. They
Yeah.
lead armies. They abduct children. Like, the monks don't do that. They will take people in. They don't turn somebody away. Oh, you're an adult. You can't join our order. We can
Yeah.
only take your child if they meet a certain criteria. And we're going to keep knowledge away from you at all times. And like I said, if the governments want us to, or we feel like we need to get involved, we'll get involved into
Mm-hmm.
war. And but if we do, we're generals. We automatically are in charge. So
And as much as, again, yes, the Jedi are trying to help, and they don't always just steal kids. A lot of the times, again, it's seen as a sign of respect to give your child to the Jedi. But the child has no say in it because they are a child. So we're
yeah,
getting onto this very slippery slope conversation where it's like, but did they really have a choice in the matter when their parents were just like, well, I guess you're right. I can't raise a Force kid because I don't know how to tamper their Force powers. So I guess I'll just give them to you. And there
and
are times where people have said no, and the Jedi have been like, okay, sorry.
not
But
always, but
not, oh, no,
there's
no, no, trust me, that's what I was going to say is, yeah, there have been plenty more times, though, where they've said no, and the Jedi are like, what if I pull a few strings and you just magically can't have your kid anymore? Weird.
there's a lot of times, like in the High Republic and even in the Old Republic, and you don't see it as much, but you get a bit in the Clone Wars where they have the government right to take your child regardless if you say yes or no.
Yeah.
They can, and we kind of see that in the Acolyte, but that wasn't just the Acolyte. That happened several times.
And then there's things like that. Like, I mean, this is now the best example within the Acolyte. Soul saw a child, twins, but only became crazily attached to one, to the point where it led him to do dark things to get this child, to then not even be able to teach her as a Jedi. Had Soul just told Osha in the beginning, so I accidentally had to fight your mom and things were bad, like, he could have maybe explained a way to her to keep her around, but he didn't even try because he was immediately obsessed. He was immediately attached to this idea. I just, there's no such thing as a pure Jedi, and that
Yeah.
alone makes me like the Sith more, because to be a pure Sith is simply just to be free and do what you want. To be a pure Sith is to,
But also being a jerk at the same time. I was gonna say
yeah,
the D word. I say dick, but you gotta be a dick too.
yeah,
But I mean, what I really want to say in the conclusion of all this that you helped prove, thank you for that, that the perfect ideology is Mandalorians. So, and the truth of the thing is,
Yeah.
don't be a Jedi, don't be a Sith, be a Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And
Who needs the Force?
that's my TED talk. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to our welcome to our 2 second TED talk where we tell you that if you can use the Force, just don't, just stop
You
it.
don't. You're human, awesome. You're another species, awesome.
Yeah.
You're old, welcome aboard. You are a child, welcome aboard. Do you have the Force? Don't care, welcome aboard.
Yeah. You could be nobody. We'll train you to be somebody.
Ideology, not the Clone Wars version, not the whole house thing. That's the poor version. The original, the true Mandalorian version, before the houses and before the cults.
Go back to the EU.
Actually, there was always cults, but
read up on the EU Mandalorians and how they were like, "Hey, man, if you just want to carry a blaster and pew pew a few things and just help us expand our empire, we'll help you right along."
It's a way of life. It's a culture. It's not. They're not. They did start out as originally in the EU. They started out as a species, but became a culture, a way of life. You joined a clan. Not an order. You joined a clan, and you were a family. You took on the name because you were now part of that family.
Part of even a bigger thing, because you were the clan, and then you were Mandalorian, and that was all of them. You were all connected by that symbiosis of Mandalorian. I mean, the original Tong had 4 gods. There was a god of like conquest, a god of bettering yourself, and a god of never giving up. The only bad god in the old Mandalorian culture was a god of sloth and laziness. So this was a culture literally based around don't stab people in the back because that's not honorable. Fight them face to face. Don't steal from somebody because you don't need anything that we can't already give you. Just be the best you that you can be.
Yeah, it's a culture of bettering yourself, and you don't have to be a warrior. It's a warrior culture, but you don't have to be on the fight. They encourage learning how to fight to protect yourself. They encourage going on the battle lines, but you don't have to. And you don't have to have, I mean, as long as you can live with the idea of being a family of a group of people, that's it. That's all you really need. And they like the slogans, family's more than blood. One of the most popular phrases. They call each other brother and sister.
Vod.
Suquin Vod was a common phrase is hello brother, hello sister. That's how they greet each other.
And it's even gender neutral. They're like, I don't care what you have under that suit. You're Vod. You are family.
Well, it's race. They didn't. There was no race restrictions, and like I said, you could just join them. You find a group that will take you in, you join them. You don't. They kind of show a little bit in Mandalorian. It's more the perversion of a cult. But it is closer to what it used to be than what they had in the Clone Wars, where it's more a feudalism thing. That's not how things were. The whole planet of Mandalore was scattered, and other planets were scattered of tribes, of not really tribes, but of clans, of groups of families. And the leader of your family, they had typically 3 leaders of each family, and they were all appointed by voting within the family. And then the head leader of all the Mandalorians was voted by all the Mandalorians. It was a full democracy.
And really the only time that ever went bad for them is with Force users started picking their heads into the Mandalorians' business. So you know what? My last thought, I guess Darth Treya had it right. Just remove the Force. Just cut the Force off.
When the Sith got involved is when things got bad.
Yeah. So I'm honestly going to say I think Darth Treya might have had a pretty good fight in the game with what if we just got the Force out of this? Because the Force is the reason that the Jedi and the Sith fight and that there's all this war is because of people trying to use the Force and like use the Republic or use their empire. So if we just got rid of the Force, then it can't put its will onto us living beings. So, yeah, maybe I'll just get rid of the Force.
The Mandalorians wouldn't have tried to conquer the galaxy if it weren't for the Jedi or the Sith.
Oh, dude, if it wasn't for the Jedi or the Sith, the Mandalorians would have just slowly just expanded a little bit. They would have had enough plans to be like, okay, we're good. Okay, well, maybe a few more. Oh, okay, well, hey, you should be under us because we have all this power and we can protect you. Like, they would have just been a better Republic.
Yeah, but it's just the way. That's one thing I really loved the old EU style of their way how they do things. I like the cool markings you put on your armor for just achievements that you've done, which goes back to a lot of the old cultures with like Native Americans or other African tribes. And you do accomplish, you wear like a trophy.
Yeah.
But also, your armor is your second skin, and there's unlike what you see in the Clone Wars and part of the Mandalorian, there is a you don't well you see that later in the Mandalorian. You see that your color, your armor is a projection of yourself.
Yeah.
Your colors, whatever you want it to be. You can have any design you want. Unlike the feudalism version that we see with the Darksaber and blah. I hate the Darksaber. It's cool, but I hate the idea of it.
Right.
And the perversion behind it. But the idea of like, I am going to have an orange suit of armor because it defines me with cool lightning bolts all over it.
Yeah.
Then awesome. That's how I describe myself. And they cool fixtures that they kept from like Boba Fett. The reason why it's battle damage because it's just, you wear because each chip of paint, each scar in the armor is something you've earned. It's so it's I don't mean to steal it away from the Sith.
Oh, no. But... Literally, the best way to wrap this up. The Sith are dicks, but I love them. The Jedi are pompous. They're really cool. The Mandalorians, though, they got your back. So, guys, thank you all so much for stopping by. Down in that comment section while you're hitting like and subscribe, tell us, out of the 3 big factions, Jedi, Sith, and Mandalorians, what faction do you think you would belong to, and which faction do you think has the right idea? Thank you all so much for stopping by. Have an amazing rest of your day, and as always, may the Force serve you well.
Well, this is the wrong episode to say it, so I'll say may the Force serve you well as too.